The office buzzed with its usual Monday morning energy. Employees shuffled in, carrying cups of coffee and chatting about their weekends. The air was filled with the rhythmic tapping of keyboards and the occasional ring of a phone. It was a typical day at Innovatech Solutions, a mid-sized tech company known for its cutting-edge software solutions. Among the crowd of workers stood Marcus Johnson, a tall, confident man in his early 40s. He wasn't dressed like the others. No crisp suits or polished shoes for him. Instead, he wore a simple hoodie, faded jeans, and sneakers. To most people passing by, he looked out of place, like someone who didn't belong there. Marcus had arrived at the office earlier than expected, planning to get settled before officially stepping into his new role. What no one knew, not even the receptionist who greeted him with a polite smile, was that Marcus was the company's newly appointed CEO. The board of directors had hired him after months of searching for someone to lead the struggling business back to success. Marcus had built a reputation as a turnaround expert, known for transforming failing companies into thriving enterprises. But today, he wasn't here to make an entrance. He wanted to observe quietly, to understand the culture of the workplace, before taking charge. As Marcus stood near the reception desk, glancing around the bustling office, he caught the attention of Daniel Harper. Daniel was a middle-aged engineer who prided himself on his technical expertise. He had been with the company for over a decade and considered himself one of its most valuable assets. However, Daniel also had a reputation for being difficult to work with. He often complained about what he called unprofessional behavior in the workplace and wasn't shy about voicing his opinions. When Daniel spotted Marcus standing casually in the lobby, something inside him bristled. Daniel marched up to Marcus with a scowl on his face. "Excuse me," he said loudly, drawing the attention of nearby employees. "But this is a professional environment. If you're here to fix something, go find whoever called you. Otherwise, leave." His tone was sharp, dripping with disdain. Marcus turned to look at him calmly, unfazed by the sudden confrontation. He recognized the type, someone quick to judge based on appearances. Without saying a word, Marcus simply stared back, his expression unreadable. But Daniel wasn't done. Emboldened by the small audience gathering around them, he continued his tirade. "You don't belong here," he snapped, pointing toward the door. "This isn't some casual hangout spot. We have standards." His words carried a mix of arrogance and superiority, as if he were the gatekeeper of professionalism. A few employees exchanged uncomfortable glances, unsure whether to intervene or stay silent. Others whispered among themselves, curious to see how the situation would unfold. Marcus finally spoke, his voice calm but firm. "I'm actually here for a meeting with leadership," he said, his eyes locking onto Daniel's. "I think you'll want to hear what I have to say." For a moment, Daniel hesitated. There was something about Marcus's demeanor that made him pause, a quiet confidence that seemed out of place with his casual attire. But instead of backing down, Daniel doubled down on his insults. "Oh, really?" he sneered. "What could you possibly teach us? Maybe how to dress properly?" The tension in the room grew thicker with each passing second. Some employees began to feel uneasy, sensing that Daniel was crossing a line. Others, however, found themselves silently cheering for Marcus, curious to see how he would respond. Just then, Sarah Mitchell, the head of human resources, walked into the lobby. She froze when she saw the commotion and quickly stepped forward. "Is everything okay here?" she asked cautiously, her eyes darting between Daniel and Marcus. Before anyone could answer, Marcus spoke again. "It's fine," he said smoothly. "Just waiting for my appointment." His calm response only seemed to irritate Daniel further. Frustrated and embarrassed, Daniel scoffed and turned to walk away, muttering under his breath, "Waste of space." Unbeknownst to Daniel, his actions had already set off a chain reaction. Sarah, recognizing Marcus, immediately apologized profusely for the misunderstanding and escorted him upstairs to the executive conference room. As they walked, Marcus couldn't help but reflect on what had just happened. He had seen prejudice countless times throughout his career, but it never failed to surprise him how quickly people jumped to conclusions based on superficial details. Still, he remained composed, knowing that the real test of character would come later, when the truth came to light. Meanwhile, Daniel returned to his desk, still fuming. He replayed the encounter in his mind, convinced that he had done the right thing. After all, maintaining standards was important, wasn't it? He didn't realize that his judgmental attitude and harsh words were about to have far-reaching consequences, not just for himself, but for everyone in the office. Little did Daniel know, the man he had humiliated was not just a visitor or a delivery guy. Marcus Johnson was the person who held the power to change the course of the company, and perhaps Daniel's life forever. Sarah led Marcus upstairs to the executive conference room, her steps quick and purposeful. She couldn't shake off the embarrassment she felt for how he had been treated downstairs. As they entered the sleek, glass-walled space, Marcus was greeted by a group of senior executives who had been waiting eagerly to meet him. The moment they saw him, their faces lit up with recognition. They stood up one by one, offering handshakes and warm welcomes. Some even apologized profusely for what had happened in the lobby. "Marcus, we're so sorry about that," said James Carter, the CFO, his voice tinged with regret. "We'll make sure something like this never happens again." Others nodded, in agreement, clearly mortified by the scene Daniel had caused. Marcus, however, remained calm and composed. He waved off their apologies with a small smile. "It's fine," he reassured them. "I've dealt with worse. Let's focus on why we're here." The meeting began shortly after, and Marcus wasted no time diving into business. He outlined his vision for the company, streamlining operations, improving employee morale, and fostering a culture of inclusivity. His ideas were bold yet practical, earning nods of approval from the team. The executives listened intently, impressed not only by his strategic thinking, but also by his ability to command respect without raising his voice. For the first time in years, there was a sense of hope in the room, a belief that Innovatech Solutions could rise above its challenges. Back downstairs, Daniel sat at his desk, oblivious to the storm brewing around him. He replayed the encounter, with Marcus in his mind, still convinced that he had done nothing wrong. In fact, he felt proud of himself for standing up to someone he deemed out of place. To Daniel, it wasn't just about appearance. It was about maintaining what he believed were high standards. He didn't realize that his narrow-mindedness had blinded him to the bigger picture. As the morning wore on, rumors began spreading through the office like wildfire. Employees whispered about the mysterious man in the hoodie who had been escorted upstairs by Sarah Mitchell herself. Speculation ran rampant. Was he an investor, a consultant? Someone important, clearly, given the way Sarah had reacted. No one dared to ask directly, but curiosity bubbled beneath the surface. By lunchtime, the entire office seemed to be abuzz with gossip. People gathered in small clusters, exchanging theories about the stranger's identity. Even those who hadn't witnessed the confrontation in the lobby were eager to hear the details. "Did you see him?" asked Lisa Chen, a junior developer, as she joined her colleagues in the break room. "He looked so casual, like he didn't care at all. I heard he went straight to the executive floor," chimed in Tom Reynolds, another engineer. "That means he's got to be someone big, maybe a new client." "No way," countered Rachel Patel, shaking her head. "Why would Sarah personally take him up there if he was just a client? My guess is he's higher up than that." While the employees speculated, Daniel continued working at his desk, tuning out the chatter. He assumed the man had left the building after their heated exchange, never giving it another thought. After all, why would someone like that stick around? Later that afternoon, an announcement came over the intercom, cutting through the hum of conversation. "Attention, everyone," the voice said, crisp and professional. "All staff members are required to gather in the main auditorium within 15 minutes for an important message from our new CEO." The words sent a ripple of excitement and unease through the office. New CEO? How had no one known about this? Employees scrambled to tidy their desks and head toward the auditorium. Whispers grew louder as they filed into rows of seats, craning their necks to catch a glimpse of the stage. When Marcus finally walked onto the platform, the room erupted into murmurs. There he was, the man in the hoodie, now wearing a tailored blazer over his casual attire. His presence commanded attention, and the audience fell silent almost instantly. "Good afternoon, everyone," Marcus began, his deep voice resonating through the auditorium. "My name is Marcus Johnson, and I'm honored to join Innovatech Solutions as your new CEO." He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. Many people exchanged wide-eyed glances while others sat frozen in disbelief. This was the same man Daniel had insulted earlier that day. Marcus continued, speaking passionately about his plans for the company. He talked about innovation, collaboration, and creating a workplace where everyone felt valued. Then, without warning, he addressed the elephant in the room. "Earlier today," he said, his tone shifting slightly, "one of your colleagues treated me poorly based solely on appearances. That person made assumptions about my worth and position without knowing anything about me." The atmosphere in the auditorium shifted dramatically. People shifted uncomfortably in their seats, some stealing nervous glances toward Daniel, who sat near the back, his face pale and expressionless. Marcus went on, his voice steady but firm. "Let me remind you all that talent, intelligence, and leadership come in many forms, and no one should ever judge another human being so carelessly." Daniel felt his stomach churn as realization dawned on him. The man he had ridiculed, the person he had dismissed as unworthy of respect, was now the most powerful figure in the company. Panic set in as he realized the gravity of his mistake. His arrogance had not only embarrassed himself but had also tarnished the reputation of the company in front of its new leader. When the speech ended, the auditorium erupted into applause. Employees rose to their feet, clapping enthusiastically, as Marcus smiled and nodded in acknowledgement. But amidst the celebration, Daniel remained rooted to his seat, his mind racing. He knew this wasn't over, not by a long shot. After the meeting, word of Daniel's behavior spread like wildfire. By the end of the day, nearly everyone in the office knew what had happened. Some employees felt sympathy for Daniel, knowing he had acted out of ignorance rather than malice. Others, however, believed he deserved whatever consequences came his way. The tension in the office was palpable, and Daniel could feel the weight of judgment pressing down on him. Later that evening, Sarah Mitchell approached Daniel at his desk. Her expression was stern, leaving no room for doubt about the seriousness of the situation. "Daniel, please come with me," she said curtly. "The CEO would like to speak with you privately." Daniel's heart sank. He followed Sarah to Marcus's office, his legs feeling like lead. When they arrived, Marcus gestured for Daniel to sit down, his demeanor calm but authoritative. "Daniel," Marcus began, "your behavior earlier was unacceptable. Not only did you disrespect me personally, but you also created a toxic atmosphere in front of our entire team." Daniel opened his mouth to defend himself, stammering excuses about misunderstanding the situation. But Marcus cut him off mid-sentence. "This isn't just about me," he explained. "Imagine if someone else had been standing there, a client, a potential partner, or even a fellow employee. Would you treat them the same way? Your actions reflect poorly on this company, and we can't afford such negativity moving forward." With a heavy sigh, Marcus delivered the final verdict. "Effective immediately, you're terminated. Collect your belongings and leave the premises." Daniel sat stunned, unable to process what had just happened. For once, his arrogance had failed him, and there was nothing he could do to change it. As Daniel packed up his things and walked out of the building, heads turned to watch him go. It was a sobering moment for everyone present, a stark reminder of the importance of humility, empathy, and treating others with respect. And for Marcus, it was the beginning of a journey to transform not just the company's performance, but its very soul. The days following Daniel's dismissal were tense and charged with emotion across the office. Employees whispered in hushed tones, speculating about what had transpired during his private meeting with Marcus. Some felt sympathy for Daniel, arguing that while his actions were misguided, losing his job was an overly harsh punishment. Others believed it was a necessary step to set a precedent, proof that the company would no longer tolerate behavior rooted in prejudice or disrespect. For Daniel himself, Life outside Innovatech Solutions became a blur of shame and regret. He spent hours replaying the events of that fateful Monday in his mind, each memory more painful than the last. The image of Marcus standing on stage, addressing the entire company as their new CEO, haunted him. How could he have been so blind? So arrogant? What made it worse was knowing that everyone else now knew too. The colleagues he'd worked alongside for over a decade, the people who once respected him, now saw him as a cautionary tale. Daniel tried reaching out to former coworkers, hoping to explain himself or at least salvage some semblance of dignity. But most avoided his calls and messages. Those who did respond offered polite but distant replies, clearly uncomfortable engaging with him after everything that had happened. It wasn't just embarrassment that weighed heavily on Daniel. It was isolation. For the first time in years, he found himself questioning not only his career choices but also his character. Back at Innovatech, Marcus wasted no time implementing changes aimed at fostering a healthier workplace culture. Within days of taking charge, he announced a series of initiatives designed to promote inclusivity and mutual respect among employees. Workshops on unconscious bias were scheduled, team-building exercises were organized, and open forums were created where staff members could voice concerns without fear of retaliation. Marcus made it clear that these efforts weren't optional. They were mandatory for everyone, from interns to senior executives. One afternoon, Sarah Mitchell gathered the management team for a meeting to discuss progress. "We need to ensure this isn't just lip service," she emphasized, her tone firm yet encouraging. "People are watching us closely, not just internally but externally as well. If we want to rebuild trust and create real change, we have to lead by example." Marcus nodded in agreement. "This goes beyond policies," he added. "It's about shifting mindsets. We can't undo years of ingrained habits overnight, but we can start by holding ourselves accountable. Every decision we make, every interaction we have, it all matters." As weeks turned into months, the impact of Marcus's leadership began to show. Employees noticed subtle but significant shifts in the office atmosphere. Conversations became less guarded. Teams collaborated more openly, and there was a renewed sense of purpose. Even small gestures, like celebrating diverse holidays or acknowledging individual achievements, helped foster a sense of belonging. But Marcus didn't stop there. He recognized that true transformation required addressing systemic issues within the organization. One of his boldest moves was restructuring the hiring process to eliminate biases. Resumes were stripped of identifying details such as names and photos during initial screenings, ensuring candidates were judged solely on their qualifications. Additionally, he introduced mentorship programs pairing junior employees with senior leaders, creating opportunities for growth and representation across all levels. Despite these positive changes, not everyone was quick to embrace the new direction. A handful of longtime employees grumbled about the softening of corporate culture, claiming that Marcus's focus on inclusivity came at the expense of productivity. However, Marcus remained undeterred. During one particularly heated discussion, he addressed the skeptics directly. "Success isn't measured by how much money we make or how many projects we complete. It's measured by how we treat each other along the way. If we lose sight of that, then none of this, the profits, the innovations, means anything." His words resonated deeply with many employees, especially those who had previously felt marginalized or overlooked. Take Lisa Chen, for instance. As a junior developer, she had often struggled to be heard in meetings dominated by louder, more assertive voices. But under Marcus's leadership, she was encouraged to share her ideas and take ownership of key initiatives. Her confidence grew exponentially, and soon she was leading a project that earned praise from clients and colleagues alike. Similarly, Tom Reynolds, another engineer, found himself reevaluating his own biases. Before Marcus arrived, Tom had rarely thought twice about the lack of diversity in the company, or the dismissive attitude some of his peers displayed toward underrepresented groups. Now, attending workshops and participating in discussions forced him to confront uncomfortable truths about his own behavior. Slowly but surely, he began making conscious efforts to be more inclusive, both professionally and personally. Of course, Not all challenges disappeared overnight. There were still moments of tension, missteps, and misunderstandings. Change, after all, is never easy. But what set Marcus apart as a leader was his willingness to listen and adapt. When employees raised concerns about certain policies feeling performative rather than impactful, Marcus took their feedback seriously. He invited them to brainstorm solutions together, empowering them to play an active role in shaping the future of the company. Meanwhile, Daniel's absence loomed large in the background. Though no one explicitly mentioned him, his story served as a constant reminder of the consequences of unchecked prejudice. It became a topic of reflection during training, sessions, and informal conversations. Could I have done something differently? Employees wondered aloud. How can we prevent situations like this from happening again? Even Marcus acknowledged the complexity of the situation. In private moments, he admitted to Sarah that firing Daniel hadn't been an easy decision. I didn't enjoy humiliating him, Marcus confessed. But sometimes accountability is the only way to drive home the importance of respect and empathy. Hopefully this experience teaches him and everyone else something valuable. As the months passed, Humiliates solutions began to thrive in ways no one had anticipated. Client satisfaction improved, employee retention rates soared, and profits reached record highs. Yet for Marcus, the greatest victory wasn't financial, it was cultural. He had succeeded in transforming a fractured, hierarchical workplace into a community built on trust, collaboration, and shared values. And then, one day, nearly 6 months after Daniel's departure, something unexpected happened. An email landed in Marcus's inbox from an unfamiliar address. Curious, he opened it and began reading. Dear Mr. Johnson, I hope this message finds you well. I know my words may not mean much coming from someone who wronged you so deeply, but I want to apologize sincerely for my actions on that Monday morning. Looking back, I see how misguided and hurtful I was. I let my assumptions cloud my judgment, and in doing so, I disrespected not only you but also the principles of decency and fairness. Losing my job was a wake-up call I desperately needed. Since leaving Innovatech, I've taken time to reflect on my behavior and educate myself about the harm caused by prejudice. While I understand that I can't undo the past, I hope to move forward as a better person, one who treats others with kindness and humility. Thank you for showing me the error of my ways, even if it came at a great cost to me. I wish you and the company continued success. Sincerely, Daniel Harper. Marcus read the email twice, his expression thoughtful. Then he forwarded it to Sarah with a note. Let's keep this between us. For now. Though forgiveness wasn't guaranteed, Marcus knew that redemption was always possible. And perhaps in time Daniel might find his way back, not to Innovatech, but to a place of understanding and growth. After all, Marcus believed in second chances. That was part of what made him not just a great leader, but a compassionate human being. Months passed since Daniel's dismissal, and the transformation at Humiliates Solutions continued to unfold. Under Marcus's leadership, the company wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. Employees worked with renewed energy, collaborating seamlessly across departments and embracing the inclusive culture Marcus had championed. The once toxic atmosphere that had simmered beneath the surface was replaced by an environment where people felt valued, respected, and empowered to contribute their best. Marcus remained deeply involved in every aspect of the company's operations, ensuring his vision for change permeated every corner of the organization. He held regular town hall meetings, inviting employees to share feedback or voice concerns directly with him. These sessions weren't mere formalities, they were opportunities for honest dialogue. Whether discussing workplace policies, project deadlines, or even personal struggles, Marcus listened intently, responding with empathy and understanding. His approachability earned him widespread admiration, and employees began referring to him not as the CEO, but simply as Marcus. One such meeting took place on a chilly Tuesday afternoon. The conference room buzzed with anticipation as employees filed in, eager to hear updates about upcoming initiatives. Marcus stood at the front of the room, wearing his signature combination of casual yet polished attire, a blazer paired with jeans. As always, his presence commanded attention without demanding it. "Thank you all for being here," he began, his tone warm and conversational. "I wanted to take some time today to talk about how far we've come and where we're headed next." He paused, letting his words sink in before continuing. "When I first arrived here, I saw potential, not just in our products and services, but in you. Each of you brings something unique to this company, and together we've started building a workplace that reflects those values." The audience nodded in agreement, many smiling proudly. Marcus then shifted gears, addressing some of the challenges they still faced. "That said, we're not perfect. There are areas where we can improve, communication gaps, lingering biases, moments when we fall short of living up to the standards we've set for ourselves, and that's okay. Growth is messy. What matters is that we keep pushing forward, learning from our mistakes and holding each other accountable." His honesty resonated deeply with the team. After the presentation ended, several employees approached him to express gratitude for his transparency. One young intern shyly admitted, "Hearing you speak makes me feel like my voice actually matters here." Another employee confided, "For the first time, I don't dread coming to work. This feels less like a job and more like a community." While the office flourished under Marcus's guidance, Daniel Harper found himself grappling with a very different reality. After leaving Innovatech, he struggled to find stable employment. His reputation preceded him, making recruiters hesitant to hire someone who had been fired for discriminatory behavior. Rejection after rejection left him feeling defeated, questioning whether he'd ever rebuild his career or his self-respect. Desperate for income, Daniel eventually accepted a lower-level position at a small tech startup called CodeForge. It wasn't glamorous work, nor did it offer the prestige of his previous role at Innovatech, but it gave him a chance to start over, even if humbly. On his first day, Daniel resolved to leave his old habits behind. No more arrogance, no more snap judgments, just quiet determination to prove himself worthy of a second chance. At CodeForge, Daniel quickly realized how much he had taken for granted at his former job. Here, resources were limited, teams were smaller, and everyone wore multiple hats. For the first time in years, Daniel found himself working alongside colleagues from diverse backgrounds, people whose perspectives challenged his own. At first, he felt out of place, unsure how to navigate this unfamiliar dynamic. But slowly, through trial and error, he began adapting. One pivotal moment came during a brainstorming session for a new client project. The team gathered around a cluttered table, throwing out ideas. When one junior developer named Priya suggested an unconventional solution, Daniel instinctively dismissed it, saying, "That won't work. We need something practical, not experimental." Priya didn't back down. Instead, she calmly explained her reasoning, pointing out flaws in the current approach and highlighting the benefits of her idea. Her confidence caught Daniel off guard. Rather than reacting defensively, he forced himself to listen, to truly consider what she was saying. To his surprise, her proposal made sense. By the end of the discussion, the team agreed to move forward with Priya's plan, crediting her creativity for solving a critical problem. Afterward, Daniel pulled Priya aside. "Hey, I just wanted to say, I'm sorry for doubting you earlier," he admitted awkwardly. "Your idea was brilliant, and I should have given it more thought instead of shutting it down right away." Priya smiled, clearly caught off guard by his apology. "Thanks, Daniel. That means a lot." This small exchange marked a turning point for Daniel. For years, he had prided himself on being the smartest person in the room, unwilling to entertain ideas that didn't align with his own. Now he was learning the value of humility, the importance of listening, learning, and growing alongside others. Though progress was slow, Daniel could feel himself changing bit by bit. Back at Innovatech, Marcus remained committed to celebrating milestones, both big and small. One Friday evening, the company hosted a special event to commemorate record-breaking quarterly profits. Employees gathered in the main auditorium, buzzing with excitement as lights dimmed and music played softly in the background. When Marcus stepped onto the stage, the crowd erupted into applause. "Thank you, everyone," he said, raising a hand to quiet the cheers. "Tonight isn't just about numbers, it's about us, about the hard work, dedication, and resilience each of you has shown over these past months. Together, we've achieved incredible things, and I couldn't be prouder of this team." He went on to highlight specific accomplishments, calling out individuals and teams who had gone above and beyond. From innovative product launches to successful client partnerships, Marcus ensured no achievement went unnoticed. But what struck the audience most was the sincerity in his voice. This wasn't a rehearsed speech, it was a heartfelt acknowledgement of their collective efforts. Then, Marcus turned reflective. "Success isn't measured by revenue alone," he reminded them. "It's measured by the impact we have on each other and on the world around us. Every day, we have the power to create positive change. Whether it's through the products we build or the way we treat one another, let's never lose sight of that." As the evening drew to a close, employees mingled, laughing and sharing stories. Many remarked on how much happier they felt working at Innovatech now compared to before. Even skeptics who had initially doubted Marcus's methods admitted they were impressed by the results and inspired by his unwavering commitment to doing what was right. Meanwhile, halfway across town, Daniel sat alone in his apartment, scrolling through LinkedIn. He stumbled upon a post announcing Innovatech's latest achievements, accompanied by photos of smiling employees celebrating their success. Seeing those images stirred mixed emotions within him. Part of him felt bitter, wondering if he might have risen to greater heights had he stayed. Another part felt grateful for the lesson he'd learned, however painful. Scrolling further, Daniel noticed an article featuring an interview with Marcus. In it, Marcus spoke candidly about leadership, emphasizing the importance of accountability and growth. "Mistakes are inevitable," Marcus was quoted as saying. "What defines us is how we respond to them. Redemption isn't easy, but it's always possible." Those words lingered in Daniel's mind long after he closed his laptop. They reminded him of the email he'd sent months ago, the one he'd poured his heart into writing yet received no reply to. Had Marcus read it? Did it matter? Either way, Daniel knew the message applied to him too. Redemption wasn't something handed to you. It was something you fought for, day by day, choice by choice. And so, Daniel continued fighting, not for glory or recognition, but for the chance to become someone better, someone worthy of forgiveness, not just from others, but from himself. The months that followed Daniel's departure from Innovatech and his subsequent journey of self-reflection brought unexpected changes, not just in his life, but also in the lives of those around him. At Code Forge, Daniel's transformation was gradual but undeniable. His initial struggles to adapt to a humbler role gave way to moments of genuine growth as he began embracing teamwork and collaboration over individual dominance. One particularly challenging project pushed Daniel to confront old habits head-on. The client had requested a highly technical solution with tight deadlines, leaving little room for error. As the lead developer assigned to oversee its implementation, Daniel initially reverted to his default mode, taking charge without consulting others. He drafted a plan, delegated tasks, and expected everyone to follow his instructions without question. But when Priya, the same junior developer whose idea he'd doubted earlier, raised concerns about potential flaws in his approach, Daniel hesitated. Instead of dismissing her input this time, he paused and asked, "What do you see that I'm missing?" Priya pointed out inconsistencies in the data flow design that could lead to bottlenecks later on. Her explanation was thorough and well-reasoned, forcing Daniel to reconsider his assumptions. Reluctantly, he agreed to revise the plan, incorporating her suggestions alongside feedback from other team members. To his surprise, the revised strategy worked flawlessly. Not only did it meet the client's expectations, but it exceeded them, earning praise from both the customer and upper management at CodeForge. For Daniel, the experience reinforced a lesson he'd been reluctant to accept. Success wasn't a solo endeavor. It required trust, communication, and a willingness to embrace diverse perspectives. This newfound humility didn't go unnoticed by his colleagues. Over time, they began treating Daniel differently, not as the rigid, know-it-all engineer who had arrived months ago, but as a reliable teammate who valued their contributions. Even Priya, who had once braced herself for conflict whenever she disagreed with him, found herself appreciating his efforts to listen and learn. Small gestures, a nod of acknowledgement during meetings, a sincere thank you after completing a task, showed how much Daniel had changed. At Innovatech, meanwhile, Marcus continued to push boundaries, ensuring the company remained a beacon of inclusivity and innovation. One of his boldest initiatives involved launching a mentorship program designed to bridge gaps between senior leaders and junior employees. Each month, participants were paired randomly, encouraging cross-departmental connections and fostering mutual understanding. Lisa Chen, the junior developer who had previously struggled to be heard, found herself mentored by none other than James Carter, the CFO. Their partnership started awkwardly. Lisa felt intimidated speaking to someone so high-ranking, while James admitted feeling unsure how to guide someone outside his area of expertise. But as they met regularly, sharing insights and experiences, a bond formed. Lisa gained confidence, discussing her ideas with authority figures while James learned to appreciate the fresh perspectives younger employees brought to the table. "I never realized how much we overlook when we stick to our silos," James remarked during one session. "You've taught me to think differently, Lisa. Thank you." Such stories became commonplace at Innovatech under Marcus's leadership. Employees celebrated milestones not just professionally but personally too. Birthdays, work anniversaries, and cultural holidays were acknowledged with small tokens of appreciation, handwritten notes, team lunches, or even shout-outs during meetings. These gestures might have seemed trivial, but they carried immense weight, reminding everyone that they mattered beyond their job titles. Marcus himself remained deeply invested in nurturing this culture of belonging. He often walked through the office unannounced, stopping by desks to chat casually with employees. Sometimes he'd ask about ongoing projects. Other times he'd inquire about hobbies, families, or weekend plans. These interactions weren't performative, they were genuine attempts to connect. And they paid off. People felt comfortable approaching him, knowing he genuinely cared about their well-being. One afternoon, Sarah Mitchell approached Marcus with an intriguing proposal. "We've received applications from several candidates interested in joining our Diversity and Inclusion Committee," she explained. "But there's one name that caught my attention, Daniel Harper." Marcus raised an eyebrow, surprised. "Daniel, are you sure?" Sarah nodded. "He reached out expressing interest in contributing to initiatives like ours. Given everything he's been through, I thought it might be worth considering. Redemption starts somewhere, right?" Marcus considered her words carefully, while part of him hesitated. After all, Daniel's actions had caused significant harm. He couldn't deny the importance of second chances. If anyone understood the value of redemption, it was Marcus. After a moment, he replied, "Let's give him a chance. But let's make it clear this isn't charity. He'll need to earn his place here, just like anyone else." When Daniel received the invitation to join Innovatech's Diversity and Inclusion Committee as a volunteer consultant, he was overwhelmed with emotion. On one hand, he felt honored, validated even, that Marcus would extend such an olive branch. On the other, he worried whether he deserved it. Could he truly contribute meaningfully after everything that had happened? Determined to prove himself, Daniel threw himself into the work. He attended every meeting, listened intently to discussions, and offered thoughtful suggestions based on his own experiences. When the group brainstormed ways to address unconscious bias in hiring practices, Daniel shared examples from his time at CodeForge, highlighting strategies that had helped him overcome prejudiced thinking. His vulnerability earned him respect among the committee members, many of whom hadn't expected such candor from him. Over time, Daniel's involvement expanded beyond the committee. He began mentoring new hires, drawing on lessons he'd learned, about humility and teamwork. He encouraged them to speak up, assuring them their voices mattered. Watching these young professionals grow reminded Daniel of his own journey and how far he'd come since that fateful day at Innovatech. Back at Innovatech headquarters, Marcus reflected on the ripple effects of his decisions. Firing Daniel had been painful but necessary, a stark reminder of accountability. Yet seeing Daniel's evolution filled Marcus with quiet pride. Redemption wasn't linear, nor was it guaranteed. But when nurtured with compassion and opportunity, it could yield remarkable results. One evening, as Marcus prepared to leave the office, he noticed Daniel lingering near the entrance. They locked eyes briefly before Daniel stepped forward hesitantly. "Mr. Johnson," he began, his voice trembling slightly, "I just wanted to say thank you for giving me another chance. I know I don't deserve it, but I promise I won't let you down." Marcus smiled warmly, extending a hand. "We're all works in progress, Daniel. Keep going. You're doing great." As Daniel shook his hand, gratitude swelling in his chest, he realized something profound. Forgiveness wasn't just about absolution. It was about becoming someone worthy of it. And for the first time in years, Daniel felt hopeful, not just about his career, but about the person he was becoming. The story of Daniel and Marcus wasn't just about redemption or leadership. It was about humanity, about recognizing flaws, owning mistakes, and striving to be better, not because it's easy, but because it's right. Through pain and perseverance, both men discovered truths that transcended titles or positions, that real strength lies in vulnerability, and true success is measured not by accolades, but by the lives we touch along the way. Months turned into a year, and the changes at Innovatech Solutions continued to ripple outward, touching lives in ways no one could have predicted. Marcus's leadership had transformed not just the company, but also its people, fostering an environment where growth, both personal and professional, was celebrated. Meanwhile, Daniel's journey of redemption reached new heights as he embraced his role within the Diversity and Inclusion Committee, becoming an unlikely advocate for change. Daniel's involvement with Innovatech's initiatives brought him face to face with many of his former colleagues, some of whom still harbored mixed feelings about his return. But over time, his sincerity won them over. During one particularly impactful workshop on unconscious bias, Daniel stood before a room full of employees and shared his story openly. He recounted the day he insulted Marcus, admitting how wrong he had been, and describing the painful lessons he'd learned since then. "I didn't see it back then," Daniel confessed, his voice steady despite the weight of his words. "I judged someone based on what they wore, not who they were, and because of that I hurt not only Marcus but everyone here. I'm sorry for the harm I caused, and I'm committed to making things right." The room fell silent, the air thick with emotion. For many employees, hearing Daniel speak so candidly was both shocking and inspiring. They saw a man who had once symbolized prejudice now standing as a testament to the possibility of change. Some clapped softly, while others nodded in acknowledgement. Lisa Chen, who had witnessed Daniel's arrogance firsthand during her early days at Innovatech, approached him after the session. "That couldn't have been easy," she said, offering a small smile. "But thank you for saying it. It means a lot." Daniel nodded, visibly moved. "It's the least I can do," he replied. "I owe all of you, and especially Marcus, a lot more than words." As Daniel continued working with the committee, Marcus kept a close eye on his progress. Though he trusted Sarah's judgment in inviting Daniel back, Marcus remained cautious, ensuring Daniel's contributions aligned with the company's values. To his satisfaction, Daniel proved himself, repeatedly, not through grand gestures but through consistent effort. He helped design training modules, facilitated discussions, and even collaborated with external organizations to promote inclusivity beyond Innovatech's walls. One project in particular stood out: a partnership with a local nonprofit aimed at mentoring underprivileged youth interested in tech careers. Daniel took the lead, organizing workshops and connecting students with Innovatech employees willing to share their expertise. Watching young faces light up with curiosity reminded him of why he had fallen in love with engineering in the first place. It wasn't just about solving problems, It was about creating opportunities for others to thrive. Meanwhile, Marcus faced challenges of his own as CEO. The rapid growth Innovatech experienced brought increased scrutiny from competitors and investors alike. Balancing innovation with profitability required constant vigilance, and Marcus often found himself working late into the night. Yet he never lost sight of his core mission, building a workplace where every individual felt valued and empowered. During one quarterly review meeting, James Carter presented a report highlighting employee satisfaction scores, the highest they'd ever been. "This isn't just good news for morale," James explained. "It's good for business, too. Happy employees mean better performance, lower turnover, and stronger client relationships." Marcus smiled, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. "None of this would be possible without each of you," he said, addressing the leadership team. "We've built something special here together. Let's keep pushing forward." As the company celebrated its successes, Marcus made sure to recognize not just the big wins but also the small victories. Whether it was praising an intern for spotting a critical bug or congratulating a manager for resolving a conflict diplomatically, he ensured no contribution went unnoticed. These acts of appreciation created a culture of gratitude that permeated every level of the organization. One evening, as Marcus prepared to leave the office, he stopped by the break room, where several employees were gathered around a cake decorated with the words, "1 year of growth." Someone had organized an impromptu celebration to mark the anniversary of Marcus's arrival. As he entered, the group erupted into applause. "Thank you all," Marcus said, raising a hand to quiet the cheers. "But this isn't my achievement. It's ours. Every single one of you has played a part in making Innovatech what it is today. I'm proud to be your leader, but more importantly, I'm honored to call you my team." His heartfelt words brought smiles to everyone's faces. Even Daniel, standing quietly in the corner, felt a surge of pride. For the first time in years, he truly belonged somewhere, not because of his title or expertise, but because of the person he was becoming. Later that night, Marcus reflected on the past year as he sat alone in his home office. The road hadn't been easy. There had been setbacks, doubts, and moments when he questioned whether he was doing enough. But looking back, he realized how far they'd come. Innovatech wasn't perfect. It never would be. But it was better, stronger, kinder. And then, as if on cue, his phone buzzed with a notification. It was an email from Daniel sent hours earlier. "Dear Marcus, I hope this note finds you well. I wanted to take a moment to express my gratitude for everything, not just for giving me another chance, but for showing me what real leadership looks like. You didn't have to let me back in, yet you did. That act of trust has changed my life in ways I'll never fully be able to repay. Innovatech isn't the same company it was a year ago, and neither am I. I'm still learning, still growing, but I finally feel like I'm heading in the right direction. Thank you for believing in me when I didn't believe in myself. With respect, Daniel Harper." Marcus read the message twice, a lump forming in his throat. He typed a quick reply. "Dear Daniel, thank you for your kind words. Redemption isn't easy, but you've shown incredible courage and resilience. Keep going. You're inspiring others in ways you may not even realize. Best regards, Marcus." As he hit send, Marcus leaned back in his chair, allowing himself a rare moment of reflection. Life, he thought, was full of second chances, if we're brave enough to seize them. Both he and Daniel had taken different paths to arrive where they were today, but their journeys shared a common thread: the belief that change was always possible. The following week, Innovatech announced record-breaking annual profits, cementing its status as a leader in the industry. Employees cheered, knowing their hard work had paid off. Yet, amidst the celebrations, Marcus reminded everyone of what truly mattered. "Success isn't defined by numbers," he said during a company-wide address. "It's defined by the impact we have on each other and the world around us. Let's continue building a future we can all be proud of." For Daniel, those words carried special meaning. Standing among his peers, he realized he wasn't just rebuilding his career, he was rediscovering his purpose. Redemption wasn't a destination, it was a journey, and though the road ahead might still hold challenges, he knew he wouldn't walk it alone. As the sun set over the city skyline, casting golden hues across the office windows, Marcus glanced around the bustling workspace one last time before heading home. The hum of collaboration filled the air, a testament to the vibrant community he had helped create. Somewhere in the distance, Daniel laughed alongside colleagues, his laughter blending seamlessly with the symphony of voices. Together, they had proven that even the most fractured relationships could heal, that even the deepest wounds could mend. Through empathy, accountability, and unwavering determination, they had turned pain into progress, division into unity. And in doing so, they had rewritten not just their own stories, but the story of Innovatech itself. The end of one chapter marked the beginning of another, a chapter filled with hope, resilience, and the unshakable belief that no matter how far we fall, we can always rise again, together.